Gaming is one of my favorite hobbies. No big secret right there. We have fantastic games like The Last of Us, games that are ultimately considered to be the worst like E.T., and the cult classics like Beyond Good and Evil. But then there are games that are left to rot in the store shelves, not picked up by anyone. Thus begins the top 10 underrated games of all time. The PS2 is full of great exclusives like Jak and Daxter, Dark Cloud, and God of War. There's one exclusive I feel it doesn't get much love it deserved. That game alone is Primal. It's one of those games where exploration and teamwork is mandatory. The coolest thing I would mention about the game is the different formations, all with different abilities. If you don't mind games with ton of exploration and ton of switching characters to get through certain levels, give this game a shot. The Katamari games are one of the most peculiar game series to ever exist that deals with collecting things. But what if you aren't really collecting, but in fact,
destroying everything in your path?
That's Tornado Outbreak, created by Konami. Yes, the same Konami that spiked enormous controversy in 2015. But before that, they released this gem. Who would have thought that being a tornado would be so amusing? This would be higher on this list if it wasn't for the fact that this game gets repetitive after a while. A lot of licensed games aren't that great. I'm looking at you, Pimp My Ride. There are some really good ones like The Lion King and Aladdin. And then there's Spawn Armageddon, a game based on a comic book series by Todd McFarlane. It's a game similar to Devil May Cry where there's a bunch of enemies on screen and every so often there's a boss fight. Sure, the story isn't the best, but the gameplay is where it really shines. It's worth playing for any fans of Spawn. I've already covered this game in a review, so I'll make sure to make my thoughts on it short. Aside from the cheap attacks, this game is actually a fun beat-em-up platformer with Knack, the character you play as, going from small and cute to giant and monstrous, fighting lots of goblins and robots. For more thoughts on the game, the review's link will be down below. I love arcade-style games, and I like third-person shooters, so combine these genres into one. What do you get? You get The Club, created by Sega and Bizarre Creations. There's no real plot, but who needs it when you have an addictive gameplay? Yes, it's mundane and all, but I don't really mind it. It's a diverting, stress-free gem that should be played by any fans of the genre. Nintendo's known for censoring a lot of content for their systems in North America, particularly the NES and the Super Nintendo. But then they released Geist, a first-person shooter created for the GameCube. This game has an immersive concept where you play as a ghost and you take possession of everything, like humans and animals, and it's rather violent. What makes this game more stimulating is the multiplayer, which, in my opinion, is a lot better than Call of Duty's multiplayer. Ooh, burn. Square Enix only made a few games exclusive to Microsoft systems. There was Infinite on Discovery, Supreme Commander 2, and my personal favorite, The Last Remnant. This RPG has a rare battle system that consists of many characters in different groups fighting against a horde of enemies. I without a doubt appreciate the battle system. The only real gripe I have with the game is the main character Rush Sykes. He's just too boring to care. In different circumstances, The Last Remnant is my personal favorite non-Final Fantasy turn-based RPG with an unparalleled battle system. It seems like whenever I talk about games, I don't often bring up racers. Super Mario Kart was the first racing game I ever played. Loved racing games ever since. But nobody talks about Rumble Racing, an unofficial sequel to NASCAR Rumble. It's clear that all you do is race around the track and finish first, but with some power-ups, you're up for a treat. Notably, the graphics still holds up, and it came out in 2002! If you like racing games, track this game down if you can. Capcom had made a lot of games in the 6th gen. I would say Chaos Legion, but there's one game I feel that should deserve more credit. Shadow of Rome. It's a mix of hack and slash and stealth, letting you play it as 2 characters, each having their own strengths and weaknesses. It's a fictional depiction of the historic Julius Caesar's assassination, making the story sort of a murder mystery. This game, unlike the previous entries on this list, was planned to have a sequel, but it was scrapped and Dead Rising was created in the same formula as this. And I've played it. I didn't care for it as much as everyone else. So the next time you play Dead Rising, think about Shadow of Rome and how it was ignored by many. While the Shadow of Rome sequel was completely redone into a whole different game, this will never end up having a sequel or a completely different game despite the cliffhanger at the end. Psyops is that game. It's a third-person shooter where you have special powers and abilities like telekinesis and remote viewing. There's a game very similar to this called Second Sight, but it's not in any relation to Psyops. It's one of those games that banks on ragdoll physics. As mentioned before, this game was planned to have a sequel, but it never ended up happening. This is an underrated game out of all the games on this list. I highly encourage you to pick it up and play it. Know any underrated games? Feel free to share them in the comments section. Thanks for watching.